Welcome back, everyone, to the deep dive. Ready to explore something pretty mind-blowing. Today, we're diving into nanotechnology.
The invisible revolution.
Exactly. And we've got this ebook, Nanotechnology in Everyday Life, to guide us. It's fascinating how much this stuff already affects us.
It really is.
Yeah.
And most people don't even realize it.
Right. You say nanotechnology, and people think, like, spaceships and, the future. But it's already here.
Oh, absolutely.
Ah.
We're talking about engineering at the scale of, well, nanometers, a billionth of a meter. That's manipulating individual atoms and molecules.
Wow. Okay, I'm officially intrigued. But can you give us some real-world examples? Like, where do we actually see nanotechnology in action?
Well, think about, have you ever noticed how some clothes are stain resistant?
Yeah, like those hiking pants that just, like, water beads right off of them.
Exactly. That's probably due to nanoparticles creating a barrier on the fabric.
Oh, wow. Okay. What about, like, sunscreen?
Sunscreen, that's a great example. Many sunscreens use nanoparticles to provide better and longer-lasting UV protection.
So I'm already using nanotechnology without even knowing it.
Pretty much, yeah.
That's kind of wild. But those seem like simple examples. What about some more, like, cutting-edge applications?
Absolutely. Nanotechnology is revolutionizing a lot of fields, especially medicine.
Oh, yeah, medicine. I've heard about that.
One of the most exciting areas is targeted drug delivery. So instead of traditional chemo, which affects your whole body, brutal, nanoparticles are being used to deliver drugs directly to diseased cells, like a guided missile.
So it's way more precise, less damage.
Much more precise. Huge implications for cancer treatment, minimizing those nasty side effects, and improving how the treatment works.
That's incredible. But isn't it not just about delivering drugs? I was reading about nanotechnology and personalized cancer vaccines.
Oh, you're right on the money. Nanotechnology allows scientists to actually engineer nanoparticles that mimic cancer cells. So they basically trigger the immune system to attack the real cancer more effectively.
So it's like training the body to be a better cancer fighter. That's mind-blowing. Okay, but what about other areas of medicine? Where else is it making a difference?
Well, regenerative medicine is another really exciting field.
Regenerative medicine, like regrowing things.
Yeah, essentially. Think of it like this. Scientists are using nanomaterials to create scaffolds. These scaffolds support tissue regeneration, giving the body a framework to rebuild damaged tissues and organs.
So it's like giving the body a blueprint to follow.
Exactly, a nanoscale blueprint. And there are already clinical trials using these nanomaterial scaffolds to repair damaged cartilage and joints.
Wow. Huge potential for people with osteoarthritis. So we're talking fighting cancer, regrowing tissue. Sounds like nanotechnology is the future of medicine.
It's certainly a major player.
Hmm.
And let's not forget diagnostics. Nanotechnology lets us build incredibly sensitive sensors.
Sensors for what?
Well, these sensors can detect the tiniest traces of disease markers in the body.
Ah, so like early detection?
Exactly.
Hmm.
Early detection can be life-saving for diseases like Alzheimer's, where catching it early can really slow things down.
It's incredible. So we've got nanotechnology, fighting disease, rebuilding bodies, and catching illnesses early on.
All happening at a scale we can't even see.
It's truly mind-boggling. But, it's not just medicine. Nanotechnology is also making huge strides in the energy sector, right?
That's right. We're talking about a cleaner, more efficient energy future, thanks to nanotechnology.
Okay, I'm all ears. How is this tiny tech impacting something as massive as energy?
Well, for one thing, nanomaterials can be used to boost the efficiency of solar cells.
Oh, that's really interesting. Solar energy is something I think a lot about and, wanting to see it become more viable.
Well, by incorporating nanoparticles into solar panels, we can capture more sunlight and convert it to electricity more effectively.
So we're making solar even better. Sign me up.
And it's not just solar. Nanomaterials are also being used to improve batteries.
Oh, that's huge. Better batteries are crucial for everything, especially electric vehicles and storing renewable energy.
Yeah, exactly. We're talking about increasing their energy storage capacity and how fast they charge and discharge.
So like longer lasting, more powerful batteries, that's a game changer.
Absolutely. But the applications don't stop there. Nanotech is being used to create advanced insulation materials.
Insulation, like for houses.
Yeah, for buildings. They dramatically reduce energy loss. They're often made with things like carbon nanotubes.
Carbon nanotubes, those sound super high tech.
They are. And they create a really efficient barrier against heat transfer, keeping buildings warmer in the winter and cooler in the summer.
So we use less energy overall.
Exactly. Less reliance on fossil fuels, which is great for the environment.
Yeah.
And there's even more. Nanotech is being explored to improve LED lighting to capture carbon dioxide from the atmosphere.
Wow. So from healthcare to energy, it's like this nanotech revolution is touching every aspect of our lives.
It really is an invisible revolution.
But it all sounds almost too good to be true. Are there like any downsides to this? Potential risks that come with such a powerful technology?
It's a good question. And not one with simple answers. Like anything powerful
Yeah.
We need to be careful with nanotechnology. There are definitely things to think about and address.
Okay, so what are some of the big concerns? Is it like, are these nanoparticles safe? Or is it more like ethical questions about how they're used?
Both are important, really.
Hmm.
On the safety side, yeah, one of the big things is, could nanoparticles have unintended effects on human health or the environment? Because they're so small, they could interact with living things in ways we don't fully get yet.
So we got to make sure we understand the risks before we just like release all these nanoparticles everywhere.
Precisely. Lots of research is happening to figure out the toxicity of different nanomaterials and how they act in the environment. Like, how might nanoparticles be absorbed by plants and animals, and could they build up in the food chain?
That makes sense. It sounds like a pretty big research undertaking.
It is,
Yeah.
but it's essential.
What about like rules? Are there regulations for using nanomaterials safely?
Yeah, regulations are being developed specific to nanomaterials. They're meant to control how they're produced, used, and disposed of, trying to minimize the risks. For example, there are guidelines for labeling products that have nanomaterials in them.
So consumers can know what they're buying.
Exactly.
Makes sense. It's like, having safety rules for any new technology, like medicine or food additives. But thinking bigger picture now, are there like societal or ethical implications of nanotech we should be worried about?
Absolutely. As nanotechnology becomes more common, we have to think about how it affects society as a whole. One concern is it could make existing inequalities worse.
In what way?
Well, imagine if, like, fancy new nanomedicines were only available to rich people.
Oh, right. That would create even more of a healthcare gap.
Exactly. So it's about making sure the benefits of nanotechnology are available to everyone, not just a select few.
That's a really important point. What else? Any other ethical concerns?
Privacy is a big one.
Privacy? How so?
Well, nanotechnology lets us create super sophisticated sensors and monitoring devices. And those could be misused. Imagine, like, nano-enabled surveillance tech that could track people or gather data without them knowing.
That's kind of creepy. It sounds like something out of a sci-fi movie.
It does, right? So we have to think about these things, the balance between, like, security and individual freedom.
It feels like we need to be thinking ahead, not just reacting to problems as they pop up.
I agree.
So what can like policymakers and everyday people do to shape the future of nanotechnology?
Policymakers have a huge role, right? They need to make regulations that govern how nanotechnology is developed and used.
Mm.
It's a balancing act, supporting innovation, but also protecting people, their privacy, and the environment.
Right. Finding that balance is key.
And people, everyday people, need to be informed. They need to know about the potential benefits and the risks of nanotech. That way they can participate in these important discussions.
It's a conversation we all need to be having, not just the scientists.
Exactly. It's a societal issue as much as a scientific one.
So what we decide about nanotechnology now will shape the world of tomorrow.
That's exactly it.
Okay, well, that's certainly something to think about. But shifting gears a bit, I'm really curious about what's next for nanotechnology. What's on the horizon? What are some of the exciting possibilities?
Oh, there are some truly incredible things coming down the pipeline. One of the big ones is nanorobots.
Nanorobots. I'm like tiny robots.
Tiny robots that could revolutionize medicine. Imagine nanorobots injected into your bloodstream to deliver drugs right to where they're needed, or to do microsurgeries, or even repair tissue at the cellular level.
Whoa, that sounds like science fiction. Are we really talking about like tiny robots swimming through our bodies, fixing things?
It might sound like sci-fi, but it's getting closer to reality. Scientists have already made prototype nanorobots that can move, sense their surroundings, and even manipulate things at the nanoscale. Lots of challenges to work through for sure, but the potential is huge.
That's just amazing. But nanorobots are just one thing, right? What other like mind-blowing applications are coming?
Advanced materials are another really exciting area. Scientists are using nanotechnology to create materials with wild properties, stronger than steel, lighter than a feather, even materials that can change their properties on demand.
That's incredible. Like what kind of real-world applications are we talking about for these materials?
Oh, so many. Everything from construction and transportation to electronics and energy. For example, some researchers are working with these things called carbon nanotubes. They're incredibly strong and light, made of carbon atoms.
And these could be used for?
Well, for one, ultra-strong composites. Imagine building bridges, airplanes, even space elevators.
Space elevator. Okay, now that is straight out of a sci-fi novel.
I know, right?
Oh.
But it's based on real science. Carbon nanotubes are so strong and light, they're ideal for these ambitious projects. Of course, still a lot of technical hurdles, but hey, the potential is there.
It's pretty mind-blowing. But even with all this potential, I imagine there are challenges to actually like developing and using these advanced nanotechnologies, right?
Oh, absolutely. The future of nanotechnology is bright, but there are definitely hurdles. One of the big ones is, well, cost. Making nanomaterials and nano devices can be really expensive, which makes it hard for them to be used widely.
So it's kind of like the early days of computers where they were like super expensive and only a few people had access.
Yeah, it's a good comparison. But just like computers eventually became more affordable and accessible, nanotechnology probably will too. As research continues and manufacturing gets better, the cost will come down.
That makes sense. But cost isn't the only issue, right? What about making these things on a large scale?
Scalability is a big challenge. Making a prototype in a lab is one thing, but mass production, that's a whole other beast. You need innovative solutions and efficient processes to scale up nanomanufacturing.
So it's like figuring out how to mass produce these tiny technologies without messing up their precision.
Sure.
So where does research and development fit into all of this?
It's absolutely essential. We need ongoing investment in nanotechnology research to develop new materials, fabrication techniques, and applications. And they need to be both effective and, cost effective. This includes things like exploring new manufacturing methods, 3D printing at the nanoscale, for example,
Mhm.
that could completely change how we make nanomaterials and nanodevices.
Wow. It sounds like there's still a lot of work to be done. Both scientific breakthroughs and engineering innovations are needed.
There is, but that's what makes it so exciting, right?
Absolutely. But even if we solve those technical challenges, there's still the question of, regulations and responsible development. How do we make sure these powerful nanotechnologies are used safely and ethically?
It's crucial, yeah. As nanotechnology advances, we need clear rules and regulations to govern its development and use. And those have to cover a lot of ground, from health and environmental risks to, like, ethical concerns like privacy and equal access.
So it's about protecting people and the planet while still allowing for, progress and innovation.
Exactly. We need to invest in research that not only explores the potential benefits, but also investigates the potential risks. We need good regulations that ensure safe and responsible use. And we need to have open conversations with the public about the ethical and societal implications. It's a multi-pronged approach.
So it's a complex challenge, but one we can't ignore.
Exactly.
Because the choices we make about nanotechnology today will have a huge impact on the world we live in tomorrow.
Couldn't have said it better myself.
Well, that's definitely a lot to think about, and I think it's a good place to pause for now. When we come back, we'll look at some specific examples of how nanotechnology is already changing our lives, and we'll share some final thoughts about what the future might hold for this amazing field. And we're back for the final part of our deep dive into nanotechnology. We've covered a lot of ground, from the basics to the potential benefits and risks, but I think it's time to get even more, well, down to earth.
I agree. It's fascinating to talk about the big picture, but sometimes it's the everyday examples that really bring it home.
Exactly. So, are there any specific examples of nanotechnology that our listeners might be interacting with every day, maybe without even realizing it?
Oh, absolutely. Think about your smartphone for a minute.
My smartphone. What does that have to do with nanotechnology?
Well, the vibrant colors and the sharp resolution of that screen you're probably looking at right now,
Yeah.
that's likely due to something called quantum dots.
Quantum dots. Those sound pretty high tech.
They are. They're nanoscale semiconductors that emit light very precisely.
So they're like tiny little light bulbs inside my phone screen.
In a way, yes. And they're not just in smartphones. They're also being used in high-efficiency LED lighting, saving energy, and changing how we light our homes.
So something I use every single day is powered by nanotech. That's pretty amazing. What about something a little less, I don't know, electronic?
Okay, think about the last time you bought a new pair of hiking pants or a water-resistant jacket.
I do love a good water-resistant jacket. What about them?
Well, many of those performance fabrics rely on nanotechnology to create their special properties. Nanoparticles are woven into the fabric to repel water or stains.
So nanotech is helping me stay dry and stylish on the trails. I'll take it. But those are, consumer products. What about applications that are tackling bigger problems like global health or climate change?
Oh, there are plenty of those. One area where we're seeing great progress is water purification.
Water purification. How does nanotechnology fit into that?
Nanofiltration systems using nanomaterials are being used to remove contaminants and pollutants from water sources.
So making sure people have access to clean drinking water.
Exactly.
Right.
This is especially important in parts of the world where clean water is scarce.
That's amazing. Clean water is essential for life, so it's great to hear that nanotechnology is playing a role in that. What about climate change? Any progress there?
Definitely. Researchers are developing new types of catalysts made with nanomaterials that can actually capture carbon dioxide from the atmosphere.
Really? So pulling it out of the air?
Yes. And then they can convert that carbon dioxide into useful products, like fuels or building materials.
Wow. It seems like nanotechnology is being applied to so many different challenges. It's really exciting. But, as with any powerful tool, there's always the question of responsibility. As nanotechnology keeps advancing, how do we make sure it's used ethically? How do we make sure it benefits everyone?
That's such an important question. And there's no easy answer. But one key aspect is transparency. As consumers, we need to know if nanomaterials are in the products we use.
So, like, clear labeling.
Exactly. We need clear labeling and open communication about potential risks and benefits.
That way, people can make informed decisions about what they buy.
Exactly. But it goes beyond consumer products, too. We need to think about equitable access, making sure the benefits of nanotechnology, especially in healthcare and clean energy, are available to everyone.
That makes sense. We don't want to create a world where only certain people benefit from these advancements.
Right. And then there's the issue of public perception. There's still a lot of misconceptions about nanotechnology, fueled by, science fiction or exaggerated claims.
So, how do we combat that?
Education. We need to help people understand the real science behind nanotechnology, the potential benefits, but also the limitations.
So, less hype, more facts.
Exactly. Because informed citizens can participate in the conversation about how this technology is developed and used.
That's a great point. So, as we wrap up this deep dive, what's the one key message you want our listeners to take away?
I think it's this. Nanotechnology is already here. It's all around us, shaping our world in ways we might not even realize. And the future of this field is full of potential. But it's up to all of us, scientists, policymakers, and everyday citizens, to guide the development of this technology in a direction that benefits all of humanity.
Well said. And for our listeners, I encourage you to keep exploring the nano world. Stay curious, stay informed, and remember that even the smallest things can have a huge impact. This has been The Deep Dive. Thanks for listening.